There we go. So we're talking about the 2024 pre-scene material. This is brought in conjunction with PQ Magazine. If you're not familiar with PQ Magazine, they do loads of great stuff for students, so make sure you have a look. I just, first of all, want to talk about the purpose of the pre-scene. Since pre-scene has come out, YouTube lights up with these people that go into absolute forensic detail for hours sometimes on the pre-scene. And all I'd say to you is you don't need to do that. And if you are doing that, you are failing to understand the pre-scene. Yep, the purpose of the pre-scene by the examiner, not by some person who apparently knows more than the examiner on YouTube or whatever. The purpose of the pre-scene is helping you familiarize yourself with the business and the industry in which it operates. Yep, it helps you contextualize your answers in the industry that's mentioned, which this is the kind of Uber kind of business. And also, if there's any terminology there you're not familiar with, well, yeah, become familiar. And it's background, it's context, and it's not meant to be a list of things where questions are definitely going to come up. But we will discuss what is, things you must not ignore in the next couple of weeks. Okay. So what should your focus be? Your focus with the pre-scene should be big picture, top line. It's a bit like, if you're going for your driving test, you'd just be worried about, mirrors, clutch. You wouldn't be worried about the engine capacity or the paint color, or it's all irrelevant really to passing your driving test. So some people go into massive amounts of detail about the pre-scene. It's not a comprehension. Yeah, the focus of SBL is you are a strategic business leader, asked for some comments, and you are at a top level, a strategic business leader level. Yeah, so please don't dig behind every single word. Just because someone has done something like that on YouTube, well, that's up to them, but it's not going to help you. It's just going to waste your time. Okay. So again, if you do have a question, I will answer questions at the end. But if you want to jump in and come off mic, absolutely fine. So what do we learn from the pre-scene? So reading through it, it's a transport network company. It's the B-Land, or Beago rather, sorry, is the second largest in B-Land. And there's a bigger one called Zenbi. Yeah, so just be familiar, they are not the top dog in the country. There is a bigger one, and that's called Zenbi, and Zenbi are global. So maybe there's like a local Uber, and then there's Uber, which is a global company. If you're a global company, what's good about that? You're going to have access to resources, you're going to have access to more money, etc., etc. And Beago is only in B-Land. Zenbi's all over the place. If you look at the graphs, they're not, they're roughly, I've got about 85% of the market, and Beerland is a prosperous country. So people have got money to book taxis is what we can draw from that. The public transport is a little bit under pressure. So something like Beago is very welcome, and the government were quite supportive of it. The bigger player, Zenbi, they've got 55% of the market. Beago has got about 30. Okay, so they're a little bit bigger. What does that mean? They've probably got better economies of scale. They've got probably more finance. They're probably going to be, stronger in a battle. So we talked about that. What else do I learn? Well, be familiar with what services are on offer, just in case you're not familiar. So in terms of the services that are on offer, we've got ride sharing, which is not so popular. We've got ride hailing, so we can talk about that. We've got micro mobility, so that's kind of, scooters and bicycles. We've got customer rentals, so they were linking up with a car rental business. And you've got other business services as well. Yeah, so just if you're not familiar with what actually those things are, just have a little look in the pre-scene. What is actually happening here? How does it work? I think it lends itself. Hopefully, we're familiar with Uber. We've got to be careful that we don't think it's Uber, but pretty much is, isn't it? It's like any Grab or, depending where you are in the world, ride-hailing things. How do we order an Uber? Pretty much the same way that we order a Beago. Yeah, we have to have an app, we book it, the driver confirms, blah, blah, blah. So just understand that. Understand how drivers are employed, because in real life, not that we're supposed to go beyond this scenario, But I would think the examiner team can't not have noticed that there is a bit of controversy with regards to these self-employed taxi drivers. You know, they don't have employee rights and so on. Um, so just understand how they're employed and could anything get through the net there. You know, they go through checks and stuff, but how thorough, how robust, is there a risk there? Think about that. What else? Well, we should understand the challenges that they have. So, going forward, as this business grows, and it is growing quite rapidly, how do we keep drivers? How do we keep paying them? How do we make a good work environment? You need to think about that. Safety issues. Yeah, I think there was some attacks, both drivers and customers. How do we mitigate those risks? Green issues as well, congestion, pollution, that kind of stuff. And also employee rights, I think, are a bit of an issue. They're self-employed. Uh, yeah, we should know a bit about that. There's also mention of risks. So understand those risks. When looking at risks, you need to be able to think of how you would mitigate those risks. Understand BAGO's values, because what's likely to happen is there'll be some exhibits and they're thinking of doing something. But if you are to contextualize what they're thinking of doing in the context of what their values are, so if you look at their values, they were quite ethical, they were quite keen that their customers worked well and stuff. And yeah, so if someone is suggesting a strategy that is basically contradicting those values, yeah, you just need to recognize that would be important. Okay. What else? Sorry, I've suddenly got a really tiny. Um, oh right, yeah. So what else? This is quite a bit on this one, so I will pull this one out. You might have to re-look at the recording, or I could maybe share these links. But it's an IT company, effectively. That's what's running the likes of this business, like what runs Uber. So you really, really need to be hot on your technical knowledge. Now, the ACCA have conveniently provided lots of articles in the technical area. If you haven't looked at these, you've got to look at them, because there's going to be lots of information that's going to help you come up with some ideas in the exam. Okay, so that's really important. So there's the application of new technology 1, 2, and 3. These links are there. Have a look at that. It's under technical articles for SBL on the website. Big data, have a look at that article on that. Maybe make your own little brief notes on them. Cybersecurity, obviously, they're holding customer data, they're going to get attacked. What's the consequence of it? How do we mitigate cybersecurity? You should know about that. What about e-business? Why is it good? Just as a generic general, there's an article here on that. E-marketing, appreciate what e-marketing is if you don't already know. And also artificial intelligence and machine learning, you need to make sure you're fully familiar with that. Okay, so all that stuff is there. What else? It's a company that has various objectives. How might we evaluate those objectives? Well, we might evaluate it using integrated reporting. We've also got issues about environmental stuff. So understand about environmental reporting. Maybe just have a look what real companies do when reporting on the environment. Go and have a look at Marks and Spencer's, Diageo, Shell, BP. What do they do? Know about risks, impact, and mitigation. And yeah, if there is an investment, sometimes the first question might be they're going to buy someone or invest in someone, but the person they're probably going to buy and invest with are unlikely to have the same values. They're going to have a load of different values. They're likely, I don't know, to have issues which are not congruent with what BeerGo has. And is that an issue? Maybe there's even change management in there. But that's kind of what you need to be thinking. There's also a mention about the board structure. So just make sure you've got your corporate governance kind of radar tuned in as well. Okay. So yeah, the self-employed driver with no rights, no union representation, that's a bit of an issue as well. Is that ethical? Is that what a good person does? And the other thing, it's not mentioned in the case at all, but is something in real life, is about tax. A lot of these big tech companies do their work in economies, or say they do their work in economies where the corporation tax is very low. So, for example, Ireland, where I think it's 10%, and they do all the costs in those economies, and they make no profit where corporation tax is higher, like in the UK. Yeah, so yeah, just be aware of that. That is an issue in these tech industries because they're not actually making anything, are they? They are kind of a business that can be done anywhere because the internet is global. Okay, and here's as I say, I'm in the US at the moment, and I got an Uber last night. Ubers are very expensive in this town. That was about a 3 mile journey, and I got charged nearly $38 for it. But if I'm looking on the fare, there's a kind of a driver sick pay time. There's a driver resource center fund. Um, you know that you don't get that on UK Ubers. So maybe I'm in Seattle. It's a bit right on. Maybe they have sort of decided to look after drivers more. But it's definitely an issue in the world of these kind of Uber type businesses. So just be familiar. The other thing I'd recommend you to go and have a look at, this is the latest examiner's report. I recorded this with the examining team very recently. I've just put a link on LinkedIn because sometimes it's quite difficult to navigate where it actually exists on the ACCA YouTube channel. So I've got a LinkedIn link there. Have a look at that, and then you can look at that. And I've got the ACCA link embedded there. But I think it's important to look at that because basically what happens, the examiner gets annoyed about what people don't do and has put that in a report, and questions in next exams will be examining those things that students don't do. So when people want tips, that's your best tip you're ever going to see is the examiner's report. There's also one from September 2023. Again, I've done a video for the ACCA on that also. You can find that on the ACCA YouTube channel. But to be honest, it says almost the same thing as the one did in 2024 because students don't look at them and the examiner gets pretty upset by it all. Okay. So the other thing, again, another video the ACCA asked me to create is about how to deal with the pre-seen material. So you might think, oh, why should I listen? Well, why do the ACCA ask me to do these videos, and why don't they ask all these YouTube warriors who seem to know everything to do one themselves? I'll leave you to work that one out. But I basically, this is my video has the examining team all over it. They audit what I say, and I have to change everything because they want my interpretation of things to be representative of what the ACCA said. So you can have a look at that. I think I've got a copy of that on my YouTube channel as well. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to quit this show and I'm going to go back to my Zoom. Sorry, this is a little unconventional, but and I'm just going to stop sharing just for a moment. And let me see if I have any questions from anyone so far. Do we have any questions so far? I can now see the chat panel, but because I'm in the US, they've done something strange to my Zoom account. And apparently I've got a low network bandwidth. Are we okay? I'll give you a minute just to add something. But the point, whilst maybe someone's asking a question here, that I want you to take on board is don't spend hours, forensically looking at every word and what's that about. You need to take a strategic view. Strategic is not minutiae. Strategic is big picture, not narrow picture. Yeah, and to get really stuck in, I mean, people spending, micro forensic analysis of every word. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. But understand all the things that I mentioned so that you contextualize your answer. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully I've made it fairly clear so far. So I'm going to go back and share my screen again. I'm going to go back here. And I'm going to have to go place on the current slide. So some questions that some people have asked me. Yep. These are students. I run courses, if you're not familiar, with students where I create lots of mocks. I get real ACCA markers to mark those mocks. They do homework. I get similar for the ACCA markers to do that as well. So students who have done the mocks are all a bit stressed, and so this might be you. Maybe you're fortunate enough to get your marks mocked by ACCA markers, and someone will say, I got below 50 in my mock. Can I still pass? Well, of course you can. It's a bit like saying I stalled the car the week before my driving test. Am I still going to pass my driving test? Of course you are. You just need to reflect and review why you stalled the car and just make sure you don't do it next time. So in terms of points, that's what you need to do. This is a problem. You'll see this is reflected in the examiner report. I did the video for the ACCA on, but it says I mentioned that you need to develop points more. What do I need to do to help develop my points more? Well, basically, what you need to do there is I ask people when they make a point to think about, well, what did I make that point for? So what's the consequence of that point? Why have I said it? So if you develop that mentality, that's going to help you. Do I need to plan every task? In my debrief videos for my mocks, I kind of show how I take apart a question, how I break it down, I look for catalysts. And some people get a little bit scared thinking like, oh my goodness, do I actually have to do all that planning? Well, I think it is worth doing a plan, but remember the plan is for you. The plan is, I wouldn't do my plan in Scratchpad. I do it on the word processing because Scratchpads don't get handed in. And, if you were a borderline, the examining team definitely might look at your plan. They want you to pass. So do I need to plan every task? Yes. If fail to plan to fail would be my adage. What's the best time management strategy? Again, if you look at some of my videos recorded for the ACCA, you can also see it on my YouTube channel, how I break down time. And the key thing, without going into the minutiae of all the minutes, is I write down a start and a finish time, and I don't spend any longer than that. What should I do between now and the exam? Well, don't go crazy, but just consolidate and, kind of keep warm in your brain with knowledge would be my advice. Okay. What can I share with you on the mocks my students have been doing? What lessons can we learn from them? So obviously, I give them quite a forensic analysis. So layout is looking fantastic. A lot of them, they've done 8 homework questions. They've done 3 mocks. I've really drilled into them the importance of subheadings, white space, so you make the marker's job easy. So keep that up. So here's a student, one of my students, I think got 90% in their mock. But if you look at what happens there, subheading, explanation, I mean, not massive, not great, but that's how the markers find your script very easy to mark. So try to do that if you can. Well, no, do it like that. Okay. Excuse me. Again, this is a slide question looking good. When you're doing a slide question, make sure that remember that the actual slide doesn't get any marks. The marks are for the notes. To help make a connection between the bullet points on the slide and the notes, use the bullet point on the slide as a subheading to the notes. And for that person, 6 out of 6 for that slide question. So layout's great, but you don't write enough. Okay, so we've got to get everything right. So some people have really good layout, but it's a 12-mark question and they give me 5 points. Yeah, you've got to do a bit more than that, and you've got, it's a project management exercise in mark acquisition, and you've got to set it up that way. Read the examiner's report. The examiner's report is quite long, so probably read or watch my video first that I've done for the ACCA, because that just kind of gives the key points from it, the key takeaways. A lot of my students who did the mock this for the 3rd time managed to answer all 3 tasks. If you answer all 3 tasks, your chances of passing are much, much higher. Why do people not answer all 3 tasks? Mainly because of time management. Why do people not pass? Well, sometimes people just do a mock day with me, so they haven't had the benefit of doing 8 homeworks and doing other mocks and having lots of tutorial videos. So sometimes, they have failed more than people that have. If you've gone through the whole process, you're definitely going to pass the exam. But the reason people didn't do well, who maybe just did a mock, they didn't develop their point. Okay, they didn't do the why, the so what. Really important you do that. So there you go. So what? Why? Consequence. They just gave kind of generic stuff. They didn't actually, soak it in the context of the case. You really have to visualize what's going on. So there you go. Try and picture it. They didn't really, you're a strategic level accountant and you say, oh, yeah, it's quite good. Oh, thanks a lot for that, management consultant. I'm paying you a fortune and you're telling me it's good. You've got to do a bit more than say it's good, and you've got to give, like a proper, business English argument. Yep. So the way to do that, I would suggest, is try to visualize. I think there was a case a couple of exams ago on a football club or vets, and people can't always relate to that. I think we've all got Grab, Uber, or wherever you live in the world, the other varieties. Yep. So what's the story? Picture it. You've got to be so careful on this one. People are a bit nervous. Their cortisol is overloaded in their brain, and they want to answer a question to something, but not necessarily the question that's asked. So be so careful on that. I'd read it once, read it twice, brainstorm, mark, focus, plan, read it again. You might have heard me talk about that on other videos, but really important. So there you go. That's what we do. Poor level of technical knowledge. Well, there's no excuse for that, really. But yeah, there are some students, for whatever reason, and again, I would say, what are you doing this for? How serious are you taking it? Um, you should really have a why are you doing this, because that's going to, get you out of bed in the morning and drive you to perform. Do you have a timetable? Commercial acumen? Again, you're increasingly in finance, not going to be asked to work out the figures. It's the insights to the figures. So you need to be understanding, does it make commercial sense to do this? Is it worthwhile putting a £50,000 burglar alarm on a £30,000 house? It would be crazy. But if I live in a multi-million-pound house, well, of course I'd have to do that. Yeah. Visualize it. Visualize it. Really important to try to see it in real life. Okay, so hopefully, more than others, this sort of transport thing is easy to visualize, I would hope. Lots of irrelevant content, and people write out. You've got to remember the markers only mark one question. Yep. So they're very, very familiar with that question. If you're just regurgitating stuff, you're not going to get any marks. You're wasting the marker's time. Yep. You miss the rule of and. So a question normally says blah, 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 and sometimes people only answer half the question. Rule of and. But as I say, keep your eye on the prize. What is this bringing to you? For me, when I'm in the exam, I've got to pass this. There's nothing going to stop me. So I'm not going to let any marks go free. Yeah, I'm going to fight for every single one of them. Nothing is going to be left on the table. And I can't answer something. I'm thinking, oh my, what can I say? What the hell can I say here? And that's what I want you to do. Okay. So just before we end this, I just want to go back. Sorry about this unconventional way of doing things. We have to go back to here, and we have to stop sharing. Okay. So, does anyone have anything else to add to what I've said? I've tried to preempt a lot of people's questions there, but happy if you want to come off mic, happy for you to do so as well. But I think the main point I'm trying to get across is just keep it in context. Don't spend too much time sweating over every word in the pre-scene, because it's not going to help you. But don't just give generic kind of bland statements about things. They must be dressed in the clothes of be a go. That's what I want you to do. Okay. Does that make sense? And also just look after yourself over the next couple of weeks. Keep getting sleep. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Air conditioning is a killer in America. So yeah, just look after yourself. Don't go crazy. Don't run a marathon the night before, and you should be fine. So hopefully that has helped. I have referred you to quite a few articles that you should get on and read. If that is all clear, thanks for taking the time. And there will be a recording of this. I don't think anyone did arrive late, actually. So thanks for all getting in on time. So wish you all the best. And you can smash this exam. You just have to look after your time, look after your layout, read the question, And it really is as simple as that. And have a look at that video on the examiner's report. A lot of insights I give there are going to be very useful for this September's exam. Okay, no problem at all. No problem at all. Thanks for listening. And thanks for helping me out at the beginning there where we seem to have odd technical issues, but we got around them. So happy about that. Okay, all the best. Thank you.